Welcome to Political Star Talk, an enlightened show about astrology, politics, and the betterment of our society. Join your hostesses Jennie, Sonya, and Sibyl for an hour in the stars. This is Political Star Talk.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Political Star Talk. You're here with Jennie, Sonya, and Sibyl, and we're an enlightened show about politics and astrology and betterment of our society. And today we're going to be talking about the energy of Mars quite a bit and the energy of the fire element. We'll also talk about full moon in Pisces coming up and other astrological events. Sonya, how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for asking. How are you ladies doing today?
Doing pretty good. Sybil, how are you?
I'm doing well. Just got the fires are calmed down here and things are getting back to normal and we can go outside and breathe again. So
good. I was doing some meditations with a group a few days ago and we were sending ice and water out that way in Colorado too, as well as California. And we were putting our good juju around getting some of that water energy to put those fires out. I'm glad to hear they got a little bit of a handle on it then.
They did. I'm so grateful.
Good to hear. California can use some breaks around the fire space. It's been rough, always, but definitely last several years, hasn't it been? You've been out there a long time, Sybil.
Yeah. Well, I've been in California now 13 years, and in the Bay Area, in Sonoma County, the last 11 years. And we've had fires before, but the last 4 years have been catastrophic. I have to kind of temper that. There was a catastrophic fire in 2014 around Harbin Hot Springs there in Lake County. And that's kind of was the first one that was really catastrophic that I was aware of. Then starting in 2017, there's been Sonoma County has had 3 catastrophic fires. And then there was the one catastrophic fire up in Paradise where even though we didn't have the fire here, we had horrible air quality for weeks and weeks. It just burned your eyes. I mean, it was so many toxic chemicals from, all the cars that burned up and, and so, and we've had 2 major floods here in Sonoma County. So we've had tremendously catastrophic weather over the last 4 years. And that's when it started really here in Sonoma County was 4 years ago.
Yeah, the reason I'm in New Mexico is because 3 years ago, my boyfriend's house burnt in Sonoma County. He was in North Napa Valley in Calistoga. I can't remember the name of the fires, but it was a year before I had met him. And he didn't know if he wanted to rebuild or move or sell or whatever. So when I met him, it was kind of in between places. But I was like, I'm not interested in living in the area. It stresses me out. And we both really like New Mexico, so we both agreed to move to New Mexico. He sold his beautiful farm, beautiful fairy rolling hills. It was gorgeous farms in North Napa Valley there. But it was just a little unnerving to build a brand new house and how much stress and anxiety that took just to have the fires threatening each year. So I think he ended up selling to some vineyards around there who also wanted some extra land. So, they're going to be there. So, that's scary. So I'm glad that you're good. I'm glad that the energy's a little tempered, and we'll just keep sending some good energy out to California.
Yeah,
Colorado
absolutely.
too. Colorado,
yes,
and I think Santa Fe area, I think also have some fires going. Nothing like California had, but certainly I can't see my view out my office window. I usually have a view of the mountains, and I can't see them because of the smoke. Mm-hmm. So I know if I'm getting it down here, and I'm getting the watery eyes and the scratchy throat, I can't imagine what being up close to it, like you were describing, Sybil, would do for your allergies and your eyes and stuff. So again, sending all kinds of good energy to the Californians and anyone else affected. And we got some weather coming in up into the Gulf of Texas, so sending some energy to the people affected in that Louisiana and Texas area too.
Yeah, and that I think that might be where I want to start. Like, it's I just sometimes just have to wait to see kind of how things kind of unfold, and I just want to share just a miracle that happened. And I'm going to, astrologically, first I just want to talk just a little bit of astrology. There are 3 planets in their own sign, so that makes them extra powerful. We've got Mars in Aries, which we're going to talk a lot about today because it's really, really up. We have Saturn in Capricorn, which has been there for the last 2 years and is going to be there a few more months and then move on, thank the goddess, into another sign. And we have Neptune in Pisces, which is so much the water element. And the new moon, the full moon that is coming up is going to be in Pisces, which is, Neptune represents the great cosmic sea and all the waters of the world, that place where we are all one. And it is the quantum field. It's a piece of the quantum field where, we are all connected. And so what happened was this miracle, when did we do this? I think this was, whatever day it happened, I can't remember. A few days, I think it was Saturday maybe or Sunday. I think it was Sunday, that one of the members of my spiritual community called for a special prayer, a meditation. She said she had downloaded this from Mother, and the Mother said it had to be done at that moment in time, and it got pulled together very quickly, of course, on Zoom. And it was with a woman in North Carolina who works with the African Orisha. She is a black woman, and she is just a very powerful medium channel connection to the Great Mother, and she works with the elemental spirits, the mothers of the elemental spirits. And this was the ceremony that was done. And there was more than 50 people on Zoom, if you can imagine, but she was able to lead it there with her husband. And just an incredible, powerful prayer. And there were prayers being sent all over. I mean, I know you were sending, Jennie, so many people were what we're doing, what we call praying rain, just praying for the waters to come. And when we say praying rain, we mean feeling the rain come down. Being present and saying thank you for the rain that has been sent. That's kind of how the prayers go. And so during this ceremony, which was about almost 4 hours long, it was a long ceremony, rain started. Oh, okay, first off, there was a forecast of dry lightning, the same things that started the fires a few, 5 or 6 days before, this dry lightning. And that was the forecast. And it said it was the remnants of Hurricane Genevieve. And so the dry lightning, the high winds, and they said a very small chance of moisture. Well, everybody, really went for that small chance of moisture. And so during the ceremony, it started raining in Santa Cruz, and then it went up the coast. It was raining in San Francisco. It was next raining in Mill Valley, and which was just going right up the coast of California, here in Northern California, where the fires have been. The fires were in Santa Cruz. The fires were in Mill Valley. San Francisco didn't have it, but they still got rain. And I think the East Bay got a little rain, and we didn't get any. And I woke up the next morning and everything was dry, and it was like, oh my gosh. And then I went online and discovered, yes, in fact, it had rained here in Sonoma County. And when someone shared the radar map of the band of rain that came through, it went directly to the fire. It bypassed the whole rest of the county. And the band of water was through Guerneville, through the area between Guerneville and Healdsburg and Windsor and the coast. And it was the exact band of where the fire was where the rain went.
Incredible. I love hearing things like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And, and I just got that message, as I became aware of the miracle of that our prayers are always answered. They may not always be answered the way we want them to be, but they are answered. And that's what I was told. They are heard, they are answered, and that we are not alone. as we're going through these difficult times, and I know this is not political, and yet it's just so important to remember that we're never alone, and we're not going through this alone.
Nope, Spirit's got our back.
Yes.
And there's a bunch of good heart warriors on the planet right now doing the good work.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So
we just got to stay focused, yeah.
And you know, the other piece is we need to be united, you know, and this is where I'm going to bring Mars in, okay? So now I'm going to be talking about Mars in Aries, okay? And so Mars is the warrior within us. And okay, so I just want to say that Mars is an energy, but there's two deities that are related to Mars, okay? And one is the god Ares, that is from Greek mythology, and the other is Mars from Roman mythology. And in Greek mythology, Ares was just kind of crazy, bloodthirsty, loved war, he was the aggression, okay? He was the aggressive part of where this energy can go, when it's not well managed. Mars comes from Roman mythology, and it was kind of the, what do you call it, the personification, or his personification was the Roman soldier, and how well they were organized, and how well they fought together instead of each other. Okay, and Mars was second only to Jupiter in his worship in Rome, and so that's, I think, you know, this what we're seeing is this rage boiling over. It is a collective rage. Okay, Mars stands for, you know, Mars is that energy. It is the energy. It can be assertiveness or it can be aggressiveness. It can bring violence. It can bring anger. But he also can bring, it's also about action and direction in life. And it is the warrior. It's basically the warrior energy. And how are we going to use it? It's about coming from the heart warriors. When we're working when we are moving, if our action is coming from a wounded place, that is the kind of action we're going to see. Okay, Mars is always about courage. Mars and Aries both, and the sign Aries is not like the god Aries. Okay, it's very much more in alignment with the energy of Mars. Okay, but it can go bad. You know. And it's one of the energies that is the most difficult to manage when it's active. And Mars, like I said, being his own sign, and Mars is going to be in his own sign of Aries it started in July. It's going to be a total of 6 months, basically through January, okay? Because it goes retrograde, and it's going to be going retrograde on September 9th. It's in the retrograde zone right now. And so I just want to say just a few more things here, just before I talk about being retrograde and the aspects that it's making. You know, Mars in Aries brings courage. That is I'm going to say, the deepest meaning of this. Okay? And we all chose to be here in these times. These are epic times that require great courage, okay? And the courage is to look within and to look without and name what we see, and then do something about it. And what is that? And so in the outer world, you know, what we're going to see is exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing rage boiling over. We're going to be seeing uprisings. It is a time of giving birth, okay? And it's a time of simply standing up for ourselves. That's what these uprisings are about. They are about standing up for ourselves. Now, Mars is in a square to Saturn, and Saturn is, in its highest sense, is about maturity. You know, it is about anger management, knowing this rage is coming up and how to manage it and how to use it to be effective, to obtain our goals, not to just like let the rage boil over because we don't know what else to do. It can be used to accomplish our goals, just like the Roman soldiers. So it takes being organized. It takes cooperation. It takes working together. And it also is very much about choosing our battles wisely. Now, there is a whole lot of stuff going on out there, and there's a distraction going on every day that keeps us upset, and our energy, we go down that rabbit hole, then we go down that rabbit hole, and this energy is coming up to help us create real change if we use it wisely and make wise choices. And also, another really big piece, it's in a square to Pluto. And Pluto, they say that, Pluto is the higher octave of Mars. So it's really incredibly powerful energy. And it is about becoming empowered. Pluto is about power, but it's also about the unconscious. And so when Mars is going to go retrograde on, like I said, September 9th, and Pluto is retrograde. And both of those planets have to do, well, Mars is about action, moving forward, and direction. So when it goes retrograde, and what I might as well just, and so what retrograde means is that it appears to be going backwards. It's an optical illusion, but because of the change of speed of the orbits and different things. But when Mars goes retrograde, it means it's a time to look within to where we're carrying anger. Where we might be adding to the fuel of this collective fire and rage that is happening. And so it is Pluto and Mars both, when they're retrograde, it's about the courage to look within and to understand that, as within, so without. We're creating what is happening, okay? And we do want change. And so how do we move forward with direction and wisdom versus just rage and destruction, and that all starts from within. I don't know if either of you are familiar with Starhawk, but Starhawk has always been very involved in political activism in many different levels, and her reclaiming group, she makes the leaders of her reclaiming group do some personal work. She said, you can't go out there on the streets and just bring your stuff, and you're working out your authority issue with your father out there, with the police. How are we effective? And one way is to clear out our own energy field, deal with our own stuff, have the courage to look within, because this is what's really creating what is happening in the outer world. And so it may feel like some setbacks happen. Often when Mars goes when planets go retrograde, when things are kind of brewing inside, it's hard to see how you're making progress on the outside. But it feels like things may come to a head. Maybe Kenosha will be the place. And of course, we've got the other, big issue going on, which is the lockdowns and the virus and all of that stuff, and people, things, some really awful things happening in Australia and New Zealand over this, and, people really wanting to stand up for their rights and their own personal sovereignty of their own bodies. And so, there's several things happening. And Mars in Aries, Mars is also conjunct Black Moon Lilith and Eris, which are both warriors as well. And we've got this tremendous warrior energy, okay? And Eris, as we've talked about before, is the feminine warrior. That's what she says to me. And those who have not had a seat at the table, really, that rage and frustration coming up. And Black Moon Lilith is very much about the sovereignty of our own bodies. That's whatever, and she's in Aries, and Aries is very much about the sovereignty of our own bodies. So I see both issues really coming up really big. And, of course, also comes with this incredible divisiveness, this us against them. This, especially with the Republicans, the Democrats, the this, the that, and we've got this Neptune in Pisces that is calling us to come together and to be unified. And of course, how do we do that? Well, the first place, is, it takes place in our own hearts. I know that just for example, I had several friends, many friends, that totally flipped out over Melania Trump's changing of the White House garden. And I mean, just furious. And it's like, excuse me? We got real shit going on rather than just what she put in the garden. And, this is just an example of distractions and ways of dividing us. It's like, stay focused. Keep your eyes on the prize. First get clear on what the prize is, and get unified. And then we can move forward in an organized manner, because this stuff is happening and it's not good stuff. There's the social justice movement happening, and there is, this whole COVID thing. In Melbourne, Australia, the state of Victoria, they are in curfew. They cannot go out after night. They have to stay in their houses and come out 1 hour a day. Exercise is all they get. They cannot walk around without papers. And of course, New Zealand has instituted the quarantine camps. And, there is, and the other piece is, I feel like when people go inside, they will align with the truth and recognize there is an agenda going on here. And I'm not going to, there's lots of speculation, but it is not a good thing. It is about control. It's absolutely about control. And, but I do, and we will see if now, they allowed the Black Lives Matter protest to happen in the midst of this pandemic. Will that continue? I don't know. I kind of doubt it, because this is about control. And if they do allow it, it's like, what is going on? We can't, we can't do a whole lot of things, but we can gather to protest, which is, I want it to happen, but I'm saying is, I don't know. I think we just need to have our eyes open about what the heck is happening and ask some questions. We're definitely in a questioning mode, and it takes courage to question, because, so many people are censored, so many doctors, so many scientists. You can't find many people's work. You can't even find them on Google anymore. The censorship is just overwhelming in the area of science and medicine right now. There is a huge dissension and dissent of scientists and doctors who do not believe we're going down the right track, that this is effective, and that it doesn't even make any sense. And yet there we are. And they're not allowing dissenting voices to be heard. And by they, I mean Silicon Valley, between Facebook, YouTube, and Google. And it's really important to understand, too, any talk about vaccines. Eric Schmidt, who owns Google, is heavily financially invested in the vaccine manufacturing industry. And it's just important to remember that, Dr. Fauci and Bill Gates are business partners in the vaccine business. And always the first line is follow the money. Follow the money, and you'll start to find out the truth. And there's more than money involved, I believe. But that is like the first line of trying to understand what is happening. And all of this takes courage. It just takes courage. And that's why we were born for these times. And the other piece that I feel is so important is one, of course, to remember miracles are happening. We are not alone. And I'm going to start working with groups, a group around having this Mother of Elemental ceremonies done every month, because we need their help so badly right now. The other piece is we also have 5 planets in air. in Earth. We have 5 planets in Earth. And so the other big piece of what is happening is about staying grounded, staying connected to Mother Earth. And it really, I became so aware of how much I missed. I'm used to going to lots of ceremonies where I do that connection to stay connected to the Mother and be in alignment with the Mother and with Mother Earth. And I feel like that's what this is about. I kind of saw an image of, well, 2. One was like actually steering a boat through turbulent waters. Is that you have to stay in the present moment, and you have to stay alert, and you have to stay aware, because that's what we're doing. We're navigating some very turbulent times. And the other one is the Wheel of Fortune in the Tarot. And how it's, one of the understandings I've always had is about staying in the center. The wheel turns and turns, but when we are centered in the middle, and sometimes that takes a bit of balancing. You got to give a little bit here, a little bit there, to stay balanced as that wheel is turning, and to it's to come from the heart. They come from the heart and a place of centeredness and peace within yourself to know how to move forward in these turbulent times and to be effective, because there is rage boiling up everywhere, and it can be channeled to really create, to be effective and create what we want, but it takes being thoughtful and being wise and being conscious. Okay. All right. I guess that's what I want to say for now.
Excellent. I love all that. We're going to cut to a quick commercial, and we'll be right back.
You are listening to Heart Over Ego Radio, a network of shows offering healing and guidance for your beautiful journey. Tune in on Mondays for the Alchemy Sisters, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 Eastern. Tuesdays, tune in and tune up. Body Awareness and Self-Care, 11 Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Wednesdays, One for All is Love, 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Thursdays, Unbound with Cynthia Martin, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern. Fridays, The Witching Hour with Green Witch Village and the Alchemy Sisters, 11 Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And on Fridays, Rain Radio, 10 Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Saturdays, Creating Heaven on Earth, 11 Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And Sundays, Everyday Psychic Radio at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. This is the Third Eye Political Radio Network.
All right, everybody, we're back. This is Political Star Talk, and I know that Drew, who made our commercial, said that we are Heart Over Ego. We are Political Star Talk as a show. Our network is Third Eye Political Radio, and we also have another network of podcasts called Heart Over Ego Radio. So go ahead and search both of those on any major podcast app, and you will find all of our goodness. Did we get to go over the full moon in Pisces coming up?
Oh, okay. No, we didn't. Okay, so the full moon in Pisces. Okay, the full moon in Pisces is on September 1st, and it is conjunct Neptune, and of course it's opposing the Sun, sextile Uranus in Taurus. So I'm really seeing this. Okay, it feels to me like it's the fire and water. The fire, and because of all this Mars fire and this Neptune, this full moon in Pisces conjunct Neptune, which is huge water. And it's fire and water is the alchemical process. And so it's like the fire is where the crisis, where the fire gets turned way up. And it starts boiling off everything that is no longer essential. Okay, but it can be really painful. So that then the water is added to cool the mixture off, so that it doesn't overflow and explode. And so the water element to me often means our connections with others. It's how we move through times of crisis is by being connected, not by being divided. And it's so important to reach out. However it is, we cannot lose this connection with others, and to remember that we are all one on an energetic level, and that miracles happen all the time. Neptune is so much about believing in the impossible. It is like on one hand there is the probable, and of course you have to, and that's the Virgo piece, which is, and a full moon, is always an opposition between the sun and the moon. And Virgo is the very practical piece. And the Virgo-Pisces opposition is very much about the practical mystic. So how do I walk in the mystical world with practical feet? How do I make real change in the world? Coming from a place of heart and spirit. Okay, and so that's what I feel like. It's like the alchemical process where we where we remember spirit is here, has never left us, and that our connections, and that's really what I have been discovering, is that in these times of great stress, the most important thing for me is relationships. It's my connections with others. And as I was talking to a friend of mine, and I'm beginning to really look at the possibility of leaving California. And not that I want to, but the fires, it is so incredibly stressful every year. And then along with that, I don't want to put it out there that this will happen, but there is a certain potential that, California may become a state of mandatory vaccines, which, I would not do. And I don't know how that would play out here, how people would be treated who chose not to do that. And so really looking at other possibilities, and a friend of mine, and I said, but I would only go where there were people I knew. And there are friends of mine that are having the same thoughts. And so I don't know if something might unfold, for a group of people to relocate elsewhere, or to move back to where, I came from, which is the Midwest. But what I'm trying to say is that it's about people. There's nothing more important than our relationships with others. And there's no political idea. There's no anything that is more important. And I myself have come around to, like I said, I think I went so far left, I came around, and I'm now maybe much more centered, because I'm able to see some of the teachings, some of the qualities for which the right and the Republicans stand for that I could never see before. The sovereignty of the body, self-sovereignty. Whereas the Democrats are so much more about the rights of the group. And I think we might have talked about it before, about how important it is to have both. If one outweighs the other, then it's really unhealthy. And it can't survive. We can't have a conscious collective without conscious individuals. That's how it works. So anyway, this is what I'm seeing with the full moon in Pisces. I'm seeing the alchemical process happening, the crisis, which is the fire, and then the cooling waters that come in, which are our emotional support systems, as well as our connection to spirit, and the unity consciousness, stepping out of the divisiveness that is happening. Being aware that this is being seated. It's always us against them. They're different than we are, so they're wrong and we're right. And like I said, I've seen so many of my liberal friends just going berserk over stuff that is just not important. And we're all humans, and there are some people that are lightning rods that come along to catalyze events. And I feel like Donald Trump is one of those, and he's playing a role. And to not get caught up in the political theater of what is happening. Pisces is also the illusion. To not get caught up in the illusion of what we think we're seeing, because what we're seeing is not really what's happening. We're being shown we're being manipulated on many levels. And so it's really looking deeper, and the truth is in our hearts. That's not like in our emotion. Oh, And we're also too, the South Node is involved in all this. And this woman had this really great said something really great. And she said, do you see what you believe, or do you believe what you see?
Interesting.
And I think this is up as well, because I feel like the illusion, the veil is being pulled back, like I said, and it takes courage to look at it. And we know the truth in our heart, whether we like it or not. You know, it's there. And there's so much manipulation of the illusion. It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz, you know. There's a huge veil of illusion, but it's falling if we're willing to look at it, you know, and not step into the political theater that is happening.
I feel like I was born for this time. Like, I feel like I'm just, like, trained to not look at those distractions and to keep going at, you know, this ethereal thing that I think is out there. I don't know. I've always done this. I even did it in high school when kids would get real trendy with clothes and things. I never did it. I was always just a 70s girl. Even in the 90s, I looked like a 70s girl. And I just always liked the classic. I never fell victim very often to trends. And I feel like that was some sort of training from parallel lives to keep me on track, because look at all of the distractions, let alone all the fake news running around, let alone all these conspiracy theories that are kind of whack. Now, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I have been for about 15, 20 years. But this stuff coming forward is somewhat damaging and dangerous. And I got into it on a post on my page. I put, you know, Wayfair is not shipping children in boxes and cabinets. I'm sure it's, you know, they're all their uppers aren't perfect and aren't free of, you know, some level of wrongdoing, but we need to really stay focused and not go off on these little tangents. And this group, QAnon, I think is what they're called, has really done an interesting job of taking a lot of what I would consider my straight and up conspiracy theorist friends and flipping them into, like, erratic, kind of like down the wormhole conspiracy theorists. Again, it's a fine line of conspiracy theorists that goes down the wormhole and one doesn't, but it's all about that discernment and keeping the eye on the prize. So yeah, there's a lot of disorientation going on, no doubt, and we need to use our discernment. The only thing we can trust is our senses and our feelings. Per science, everything you're sitting on and standing on is 99% space. That is the reality of things, and we are going to be tested on our discernment, which I would recommend as a professional psychic for all of you to start honing those discernment and stop utilizing fear and anxiety to steer you and get into that objective, neutral place and really just feel this out, because that is the reality of the universe, is energy and frequency. Everything else is an illusion, so we can play ball in these physical fields. It's a tough time. It's putting our feet to the fire as a human race, no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, now is not the time to practice. Like, so we're in a crunch time. You know, I'm so serious. Like, you know, if you don't have your stuff together spiritually, you know, if you don't have a relationship with God, if you don't understand how that relationship works, you know what I'm saying? That security, that faith, you know, it's not something that just develops overnight. You know what I mean? Either now, if you're one of those people who either believe or don't, and that's great. But for most people who are entrenched in this physical level or realm that we exist in, of course, they're not going to grasp the spiritual. They don't understand how powerful the invisible is. You know what I mean? And I've been giving this a lot of thought, because, you know, for a whole year I've been doing my show, and it was like, listen, people, we're going into the second year. I'm done holding hands. I've explained why you have to do the work and how it works. You know, knowledge is only half the battle. And when I say battle, knowledge is only half of wisdom. The other half is application. Mm-hmm. We got to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
I work and live and breathe in the spiritual realms, and you will be amazed at the spiritual people who only sit in the spirit, and they have a very hard time standing in the physical. And I think Sibyl was touching on it earlier about being able to stand in the physical and getting into the ethereal. I think you were going between Pisces and Virgo. That is the temperance card in the tarot deck, which is a woman who can stand on the ground but have her foot in water or the ethereal and balance both of those spaces. It's a good time to learn how to do that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with both of you. And Sonya, you are so right about our connection with spirit in these times. Creator, God, divine, whatever we call them, is this. I'm just going to say it was such an absolute. I do a lot of spiritual work, and yet to see it. When I saw the map of the radar of where the water went directly to the fire, and everything changed at that time. They were battling to save Armstrong Woods. They were battling. It turned the whole fire back. It's now not almost controlled, but people are going back to their homes, and it was. And everybody was on pins and needles because the prediction was dry lightning. And yes, there was no lightning and there was no thunder, just rain, a soft, gentle rain.
Wow. The universe, it's very mystical. And from the sounds of it, a lot of those fires started from a freak lightning accident. Is that so, Sibyl, that lightning doesn't happen over in that area often?
No, it does not. It was very strange. Apparently, it happened in 2006 as well. Mother Nature is trying to wake us up. She's working so hard trying to wake us up. And, I have been saying that this virus has come because it's part of our awakening process. And, we live in a toxic world, inner and outer. And that's what is a virus but a sickness? It's the sickness over the land. Whatever else is going on with it, it's bringing to the forefront how sick the land are, and that we can wake up and we can heal it and we can do it. She's giving us all kinds of signs, but she is just shaking us, and that's how I see it.
I hope we wake up. I feel like I've been standing with my eyes wide open for quite some time. I know, Sibyl, you've been doing it way longer than I have, and you too, Sonya. I feel like I've been standing with my eyes open for a long time, and over the years I see an awakening, but I hope that we get a big burst of it. And I think the coronavirus is just the ticket to bring awareness, as well as all this fire and water issues, such as the storms coming through, the hurricanes. I'm hoping that we get it together. And from the sounds of it, we do, but, it's anybody's game at this point. When I channel spirit, they say very often, whoa, you guys are in a really tight race there. And I'm like, oh, Mother of God, here we go.
It is about upping up our spiritual and personal work. That's what it's about, because our collective is creating this. So but I just want to say what I'm going to call my new moon, my full moon in Pisces article is Ho'oponopono. Are you too familiar with that Ho'oponopono prayer?
No,
Mm-hmm.
I am not.
Okay, it is a prayer of forgiveness. It's a Hawaiian prayer, and it's so powerful. And its words are, I'm so sorry, I love you, please forgive me, I thank you. It's a song, it's a chant, but it's also a big prayer. It's a prayer of forgiveness. And we always, and you always start with yourself, It's
yes.
like everything starts from within.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I feel like the work right now, we're being asked to align ourselves with Mother Earth, and this Ho'oponopono prayer is, and if you're not familiar with it, check it out, look it up. It's really powerful. There's many different ways it is sung. There's many different versions of it, but it's basically an incredible prayer for forgiveness that changes everything.
I have heard it. I didn't recognize it by its professional title, so to speak, but I do remember seeing memes with that same speech or a mantra on it. Yes.
Yeah.
I heard people talking about it, that that's their mantra. Nice.
Yeah.
Sonya, you want to talk about the RNC, or what is it?
The RNC? Oh, wow. Well, for the most part, and I caught a bit of the DNC last week, but it's just funny because Trump came out and said that, the DNC, it was all dark and gloomy. They're making America sound depressed and dangerous. Really? they're making it. But anyway, so he said the RNC would be, more upbeat, and we're gonna show America that we are great and all the greatness that we have and blah blah blah, and we're gonna keep it upbeat. Of course, I caught just a sliver yesterday, and they were bashing all the Democrats, and it was just funny because, of course, it was the opposite of what he claimed it was. I don't know. It's just interesting because, like with the DNC, they had a lot of Republicans, and they caught a lot of, they caught not a lot of flack, but, they caught a little flack within their own party because they hosted a lot of Republicans. And I understand the logic because they're trying to get the ones who are Republicans who are not on board with Trump. They're trying to get them to, to see the way that, you got to vote for Biden or Trump is in. It's not enough to not, it's not enough to not vote for Trump, because when you say that, you could just not vote. Unfortunately, our system doesn't work that way. It's not the one who gets, it's the one who gets the majority of the votes. They got to reach a certain number, but at the end of the day, it's the one who gets the majority of the votes. So, but the whole thing is just interesting because, Trump doesn't have his the audience. He feeds off that audience energy. So that'll be an issue for him. But I'm interested in seeing if he will address. Now, of course, I'm not going to watch the DNC long enough to see it because I'm sure he probably won't, because he doesn't do it, during regularly scheduled speeches. But if he's going to address the issue that, about the other young man who just got shot in the back 7 times by the police as he was running or walking away. I didn't see the video, and I really don't want to see the video because it's going to be heartbreaking. I know. But, for him to just pretend like there's nothing going on in America. And then on top of that, what's so funny about Trump is the irony. He talks about how, they're trying to keep the U.S. safe, but he's the one that's sending in the stormtroopers or the unidentified agents and things like that. So I don't know. It's just I look at it, but I don't get caught up into it. As we were speaking earlier about it is so important. If you have a spiritual component, now is the time to bask, wallow, call on it, grab it, use it, exercise it, because really all of these events that are taking place, you can look at them as positive, negative, or indifferent. And it really is your perspective is what's going to, is how you're going to experience it. And when I say that, I was talking to my brothers, both of them. They came by last week. Anyway, and we were just discussing, the pandemic, the economy, and one of my brothers, he was just going in on all the conspiracies and, a lot of the stuff that we talk about as well. And I'm not calling them theories because, they're actually transpiring. But I said, that is one way of looking at it. I said from a physical level, from a human perspective, that is certainly one way of looking at it, it being a conspiracy. And basically when he got through telling the story, it sounded rather tragic. It sounded like, how you boil frogs in a pot on the slow burn. He was like, no one's doing anything. They keep pushing the boundary act. They keep overstepping the boundary and pushing it back, further back. And next thing you know, we're going to be all in concentration camps trying to figure out how did it come to this. And I told him, I said, yes, I can understand. I see what you're saying. It made a whole lot of sense. But from a spiritual perspective, all of this has to come to pass. Okay? And I know, if you don't see things on a spiritual perspective, then, of course, none of this will make sense to you. That's why I was saying you can't just, all of a sudden become faithful if you've never exercised or practiced or had faith before. It's not going to be that easy. You will continue to feel alone, isolated, helpless, hopeless. Faith is the only thing will keep you strong and keep you sane in this time of what perceives to be insanity on a physical level. But on a spiritual level, it's totally different.
Right. I got a little info on the second shootings that happened.
Okay.
So there's only like a couple paragraphs here. I'll read it. This is per the Milwaukee Journal. Centennial or something like that. Centennial. Kenosha police are investigating 2 separate homicides that happened within 2 hours of each other. Authorities said the first occurred about 8:45 p.m. Wednesday. A 40-year-old Kenosha man was found at a residence with a fatal gunshot wound after report of gunfire in the neighborhood. No suspect is in custody. So there's that. I thought that they were going to be talking about Jacob Black with that one, but that's a whole different one. And then in the case of 24-year-old Kenosha man and a 13-year-old boy were shot near the alley about 10:30 on Wednesday. Despite life-saving efforts, the man died at the scene. Now, those are 2 separate cases that happened on Wednesday. I'm still not able to find the information on the white man with the assault rifle that got just basically taken in as opposed to shot dead on the spot. And he had also shot a couple people, but I'm not finding the story on that. So it's incredible that we're basically as a group saying, hey, the Black community is being treated poorly. We are starting a whole movement and we're going to go to the streets and protest. And the cops keep doing what we're saying is happening. So it's just incredible righteousness and ego in that space. It's incredible. And I often think about these Karens that people get on video, them losing their shit and wanting to call the police because of a Black man watching birds in New York Central. It was one of the stories. But I'm like, man, these Karens know. They know damn well if they step foot anywhere near the internet or a computer that we are videoing you and destroying your life with that, and they keep doing it. It's just like we're saying, hey, cops, stop. And you have these 2 stories of a Black man walking away from a domestic situation that was not his personal situation because he stopped to help from the sounds of it, walking away, and the police are like, you ain't going anywhere. And he's like, hey, I stopped to calm it down. I don't have anything to do with this. Walking away, shot 7 times or something. Was it 7 or 6 times in the back? And then, just today, my boyfriend's showing me an article about a white man with an assault rifle who actually did shoot dead people, and he gets apprehended as opposed to shot dead. So it's just so plain as day, and there's going to be the people who don't believe it because they can't. It's called cognitive dissonance. Save your breath, move yourself forward, gather in groups, organize, do the good work, put all the knowledge and wisdom into action. If we wanted just to sit and think about things, we would have incarnated in a more telepathic existence. This one's quite physical, and it's going to require organization and us putting boots on the ground or something sort of like that. It can look many different ways, but organization is a big thing. And if I learned anything from watching the organization that happened in the 60s, I learned that, which is organization is everything, and it's very important to take that energy of Mars, like Sibyl was saying, that anger, and transforming it and letting it be fuel to get us further down the line and not distract us and not have us blown up before we get to the end game,
Well, on another, going back to James Blake, the guy that was shot 7 times in the back. So, the NBA sports started back up, and the NBA started first, but they've been the most successful because they created a bubble. Okay, so they haven't had a lot of coronaviruses. Well, since the shooting, because originally they thought about not restarting the season because it will distract away from the movement. Like the NBA is probably 80% African-American players. Mm-hmm. So they said, no, we're going to go ahead and do it. So now that James Blake has been shot in the back 7 times, the Toronto Raptors, this is what's interesting, the players for the Toronto Raptors are getting together, the whole team collectively, the coach and staff as well, are getting together to decide whether or not they're going to boycott either the first game of the playoffs or the playoffs altogether. I'm not sure. Because nothing is, the same things keep occurring. So, and the logic behind it is, okay, if we stop playing, then the owners won't be making money. And if the owners are not making money, then they will do something to make change come. It happened with the football team, the Washington. It used to be called the Washington Redskins. And they have been for years, they've been trying to get the owner to drop the Redskins, and he wouldn't do it. And he said, you can count on it. It'll never happen, blah, blah, blah. Well, anyway, it finally happened, but it's because FedEx put pressure on them. FedEx is the one who basically is sponsoring their stadium. So there's a lot of money that goes to, these endeavors. But it's not until, people are truly affected, or when organizations put their foot down and say, we're not going to tolerate it anymore, because they do affect the bottom line. So I just think it's interesting because the team is in Canada. The Toronto Raptors are in Canada, even though I'm sure most of the players are probably from the U.S. But it's interesting that the Toronto team is the one talking about protesting, which, of course, will put pressure on other teams or leaders within the NBA to decide what they want to do in terms of action. Are we going to continue to play and pretend like nothing's happening, or are we going to put pressure on these owners to put pressure on other organizations for institutional changes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm seeing Mars and Saturn in action here. Mars is at standing up for ourselves, the courage to stand up for ourselves, and the Saturn piece is getting organized, keeping your eyes on the prize to be effective. And I feel like there's going to be some rethinking of movements, of rethinking, reassessing what needs to be done to accomplish goals. It's kind of like there's been a lot of rage flying around, but now it's time to, we really want to change this. We got to stand up for ourselves, but we also got to get organized and work together,
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. And the energy is here to make it happen,
Yes.
So that's why all these other distractions and upsets, and looking within our own hearts to make sure we're not taking our shit, we're not working out our authority issues, that we really want to work for change and for the goals, that keeping our eyes on the prize, but not getting distracted by our own stuff either.
It's a very interesting time, and I romanticize the 60s. I was born in 78 and grew up in the 80s, and teenage and high school years in the 90s, and just always romanticized that movement. And I often would think, what would I have done in that revolution? Well, I think I would have done what I'm doing now, which is educating and putting my voice out there and holding space. But I have a question, Sibyl. Anything stand out, and Sonya too, anything stand out, and this is research, by the way, does anything stand out from any of the organization that you've seen go down in your life that was beneficial? I'm looking for hints here on organizing. Anything in particular that's helpful? I know we have the internet, so we can pair up with people in groups all across the nation, so that's helpful.
Oh, so I don't quite understand your question, Jennie. What are you asking me?
In all of your learnings and watching things be organized in movements, all of your time in your life, is there anything in particular that you saw to be beneficial, like a technique or a tactic for organizing? I'm kind of at a loss beyond just the internet of how to organize. I have romanticized the 60s, and they had like some sort of grassroots movement where they could connect in a really cool way.
It's total grassroots movement. We're moving into the age of Aquarius and grassroots movements, and that's why I've stepped away from the politics in Washington. I think it's so corrupted, it's so beyond our control that I'm just not even emotionally attached. I mean, they both bring such horrible baggage, both sides, and that, Aquarius is so much about local. I'm starting to get involved and being interested in like our local. We have supervisors of the county rather than the city, because the county is really a stronger force here, and to start getting involved. They have Zoom meetings. I want to know what's going on locally. I want to be able to impact what is happening locally. So anyway, that's what I say.
I would say start locally as well, too.
Go local, start small, kind of like that whole theory of if you want to help the outside world, go ahead and take a look on the inside. As within is without. We appreciate you. The time goes way too fast. We are Political Star Talk. We're here every other Wednesday. You're here with Sonya, Sibyl, and Jennie. And you can go to any major podcast app and search Third Eye Political Radio, and you can hear all of our archived shows as well as the other shows on our network. We appreciate you, and until next time.